They whispered about the Blake twins the way people whispered about ghosts. "Two little monsters," the chef muttered. "Demons in designer shoes," the gardener added. "One nanny lasted 3 hours," someone else murmured. 3 hours! And she was a professional. Esther heard all this before she even stepped through the tall iron gates of Blake Manor. She stood outside the mansion, clutching the strap of her worn handbag, staring up at the towering glass structure that glittered under the morning sun. Every inch of the place screamed wealth, the kind of wealth she had only ever seen in magazines back home in Nigeria. The walls were marble, the windows spotless, the garden trimmed to perfection. It was beautiful, but cold, sterile, empty, a house built for royalty yet filled with nothing but fear. Esther inhaled quietly, steadying her nerves. Back in Lagos, she'd handled 9 younger siblings, children who fought over food, chased each other through narrow hallways, and sometimes cried because the electricity went out again. If she could handle that, surely she could handle 2 American children. Surely. But when she entered the mansion, every pair of eyes fell on her with a mixture of disbelief and pity. "That's the new nanny. She won't last a week. Poor thing. She looks too soft, too quiet." Esther lowered her eyes and said nothing. She had learned long ago that silence protected her better than any words could. The head housekeeper, Mrs. Hammond, gave her a stiff smile. "You're younger than expected," she said, eyeing Esther's simple braids and modest dress, "and very soft-spoken. Are you sure you can manage the Blake children?" "I will try my best, ma'am," Esther replied. Mrs. Hammond sighed as if already disappointed. "Well, follow me then." They walked through long hallways decorated with portraits of Adrien Blake, his late wife Lily, and their twins. The photos were beautiful but bittersweet. In the older ones, the twins were cheerful toddlers with bright eyes. In the more recent ones, they looked withdrawn, their smiles forced, their bodies stiff, children pretending to be okay. Mrs. Hammond paused in front of a heavy wooden door. "They're inside," she said. "Be careful. They like to test new nannies." At that moment, a loud crash sounded from the room. Something shattered, a scream followed, then laughter. "Good luck," Mrs. Hammond said, stepping back. Esther nodded, then opened the door. Inside, chaos reigned. Max and Mia Blake, 8-year-old twins with matching dark hair and pale skin, were running in circles, flinging crayons, pillows, and what looked like flour into the air. The walls had colourful handprints on them. A chair lay upside down. A glass had rolled across the floor and hit Esther's shoe. The twins froze when they saw her. Max squinted at her suspiciously. Mia tilted her head like a bird. They said nothing, and Esther simply smiled. "Good morning," she said gently. "What are your names?" "We know what you're here for," Max said, crossing his arms. "You won't last. We made the last nanny cry," Mia added proudly. Esther walked forward slowly, kneeling to pick up a spilled box of crayons. "You should not waste these," she said. "There are children who would love to use them." Max blinked. Mia frowned. They didn't know what to do with a nanny who wasn't screaming. "Are you not scared of us?" Mia finally asked. "No," Esther said simply. "Why not? I have 9 younger brothers and sisters," Esther replied, stacking colouring books. "I have seen worse than crayons on the floor." Max stared at her. 9? "That's impossible." "It is very possible," Esther said, amused, "and they never listened unless I was very patient, and very firm." She stood up and dusted her hands. "Now," she said, calm as still water, "which one of you will help me clean this room?" The twins exchanged a startled look. No yelling? No threats? No bribes. This nanny was different. Mia hesitantly lifted her hand first. "I'll help." Max scoffed. "Fine, but only because I don't want her to do it all wrong." Together, the 3 of them cleaned the room. Esther gently guided them. "No, not like that. Yes, good job. Max, can you hand me that cloth, please? Mia, you're very good at arranging books." They weren't used to praise. Their little faces softened without them realizing it. When the room was neat again, Mia tugged Esther's sleeve. "Are you staying?" "If your father wants me," Esther said. Before the twins could respond, the door opened. Adrien Blake stood there. Tall, composed, and undeniably handsome, he had the quiet presence of a man who had carried grief for too long. His sharp blue eyes swept the room, widening slightly when he noticed the cleanliness. And then he saw Esther, Their eyes met. Something unreadable flickered on his face. He stepped inside slowly, his voice dropping softer. You got them to clean? Max lifted his chin proudly. We cleaned because she asked nicely. Mia nodded vigorously. She's different, Daddy. Esther bowed her head respectfully. Good morning, sir. Adrien stared at her a moment too long before catching himself. Yes. Good morning, Mrs. Hammond. Said you'd started. I didn't expect... He looked at the twins again, still baffled. They've never listened to anyone like this, he murmured, more to himself than to her. Behind him, one of the staff members whispered resentfully, She just got lucky. It won't last. But Adrien's gaze remained fixed on Esther, something warm and curious growing in his eyes. He cleared his throat. Miss Esther, is it? Yes, sir. Welcome to Blake Manor. Esther gave a small, polite smile. Thank you, sir. As Adrien left, the twins ran after him, chattering about how Auntie Esther made cleaning fun. Esther stood alone in the quiet room, heart steady. She had survived the first hour, and the house was already changing. Outside the doorway, two maids whispered, She'll be gone by Friday. Watch and see. But for the first time since stepping off the plane into a foreign world, Esther felt something deep inside her whisper back, No, I will stay. The next morning the mansion buzzed with confusion. Did you hear? The twins brushed their teeth today. No yelling, no tantrums, nothing. What kind of witchcraft does that girl have? Esther heard every word as she walked into the kitchen, but she kept her eyes low and her expression calm. She wasn't here for praise. She was here to work. The chef glanced at her and shook his head. You better not get too comfortable, he muttered. They all start out strong, then the twins show their true nature. Esther only smiled politely. Good morning, sir. He stared at her. Is anything ever going to rattle you? She didn't answer. She simply took the breakfast tray Mrs. Hammond prepared and carried it upstairs to the twins' study room. When she opened the door, she froze. Max and Mia were sitting nicely at their small wooden desks, little hands folded, waiting. Max looked up. We waited for you. Mia nodded eagerly. We didn't start eating until you came. Esther blinked slowly. These were not the children she met yesterday. She set the tray down. Thank you, she said. That is very respectful. Mia beamed at the praise. Max cleared his throat and pretended not to smile. Esther served their plates, placing pancakes, strawberries, and warm cocoa in front of them. As they ate, Max kept peeking at her as though studying a strange but fascinating creature. Finally he spoke. You're different from the others. How? Esther asked, pouring their drinks. You don't treat us like we're bad, Max said quietly. Everyone else came in scared, or angry, or they yelled, Mia added with a pout. I don't like yelling. Esther's heart softened. I do not think you are bad, she said gently. I think you are children who miss their mother and need patience. Both twins froze mid-bite. An invisible tension filled the room. Max stared at his plate. Mia's eyes glistened. It was Esther's first time mentioning their mother, but she did it softly, with no sadness meant to shame them. Max swallowed. You knew our mommy. No, Esther said, but I can see her in your kindness, even under all your mischief. The twins said nothing, but their little shoulders relaxed. Something quiet and fragile opened inside them, something trust-like. Later that afternoon, Esther took the twins to the garden. They ran barefoot across the grass while she stood under a large tree, watching with a soft smile. The sun warmed her face, and for a moment she felt a little like she was back home, back in Lagos, watching her siblings chase each other outside their one-room apartment. When the twins tired out, they returned to her, collapsing near her feet. Tell us a story, Mia demanded, lying on her stomach. Yes. A Nigerian story, Max added. Esther chuckled softly. A story? Which one? Any, Mia begged, so she began telling them a folk tale from her childhood, about a tortoise who tried to trick the birds to attend a feast in the sky. The twins laughed loudly at the tortoise's silly voice, at his sly tricks, and at the funny ending of the story. Mid-laughter, Esther glanced up. A man stood at the balcony, watching quietly. Adrian Blake. He hadn't announced himself. He hadn't called her name. He simply watched. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between astonishment and admiration. When she finished the story and the twins ran off again, she finally met his eyes. Adrien descended the steps and walked toward them, hands in his pockets, his usual sternness softened. "You're quite the storyteller," he said with a small smile. Esther bowed her head politely. "Thank you, sir. The children don't laugh like this," he continued. "Not since—" He trailed off. Esther didn't push. She only nodded. After a moment, he cleared his throat and gestured toward a stone bench. "Would you mind sitting for a moment?" Esther hesitated. Nannies didn't usually sit with the boss, but Adrien wasn't giving an order, he was asking, so she sat. Adrien took the seat beside her, leaving a proper distance but clearly wanting conversation. "I don't normally interfere with the staff," he said, "but I've noticed the children respond to you in a way I've never seen." Esther folded her hands. "Children listen when they feel seen. They are not bad, sir. They are simply hurting." Adrien exhaled slowly, as though someone had finally told him something he'd long suspected but never admitted. He glanced at her. "You speak with wisdom." "It is experience," Esther said. 9 siblings will teach someone patience very quickly." Adrien chuckled, a sound she rarely heard from him. 9. I can't even imagine." "It is chaotic," Esther said, smiling softly, but also full of love. His smile faded slightly into something more tender. "Then these two are lucky to have you." Esther's breath caught, just slightly. Compliments weren't common in this house. Adrien stood, brushing off his suit. "I have a meeting, but—" "Thank you, Esther." She stood as well. "Of course, sir." As he walked away, Max ran back to Esther, tugging her hand. "Do you like Daddy?" he asked bluntly. Esther nearly choked. "Max! Why would you ask that?" "I saw the way he looked at you," Max said. "He only looks at people like that in movies." Mia nodded with wide eyes. "Daddy likes you." Esther placed a hand over her chest, flustered. "I am your nanny," she said firmly. "Nothing more," Max shrugged. "For now." Mia giggled mischievously. Before Esther could respond, Mrs. Hammond marched across the garden with a sour expression. "There you are," she snapped. "Someone wants to see you." "Who?" Esther asked. Mrs. Hammond's lips tightened. "Miss Vivien Harrington." She said the name with the same tone one would use for a snake. Esther frowned lightly. "Who is she?" "Mr. Blake's long-time friend," Mrs. Hammond replied stiffly. "Some say she hoped to become something more." Esther blinked. "Oh," Mrs. Hammond huffed. "Yes. Oh, indeed, and she is not pleased with your progress." Esther didn't understand. Why would a stranger care about her presence here? But as she followed the housekeeper toward the main hall, she felt a strange coldness settle in her stomach. Waiting for her by the staircase stood a tall, elegant woman dressed in a fitted white dress, diamonds glittering at her neck. Her red lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ah," the woman said sweetly. "So you're the new nanny." Her gaze swept Esther from head to toe with thinly veiled disdain. "I've heard so much about you." The tone made every hair on Esther's neck stand. Vivien Harrington smiled wider. "Too wide, too cold, and trust me, dear," she whispered. "Stepping closer, I'll be watching you." Vivien Harrington moved with the kind of confidence that came from privilege, the effortless, dangerous kind. She circled Esther slowly, like a lion studying its prey, her heels tapping softly against the marble floor. "So," Vivien said, letting the words stretch, "you're the one everyone keeps praising." Esther clasped her hands politely. "I'm just doing my job, ma'am." Vivien laughed lightly, a tinkling sound that felt sharp. "Oh, please, there's no need to be humble. The entire house is buzzing about you." She leaned in, voice lowering. "The twins adore you. Adrien seems to admire you." Esther blinked. "Ma'am?" Vivien's smile stiffened. She stepped back, twisting a diamond bracelet on her wrist. "You must feel very proud," she said. "A young girl, fresh from— Where are you from again?" "Ghana." "Kenya." "Nigeria," Esther corrected softly. "Ah, yes, Nigeria." Vivien waved her hand dismissively. "Well, wherever. It must feel like a dream to walk into a mansion like this and suddenly be the star of the household." Esther felt the sting beneath those words. The quiet insult, the subtle dismissal. She kept her tone calm. "I'm grateful for the opportunity." Vivien tilted her head. "Of course you are, and I'm sure you're very loyal. But understand something." She stepped closer again, her perfume thick and suffocating. "You are staff. Nothing more. Adrien has known me for years. I belong in this house. You don't?" Esther swallowed but remained steady. Vivien leaned even closer, eyes glinting. "So don't try to rise above your position. It won't end well for you." She brushed past Esther, heels echoing dramatically as she left. Mrs. Hammond, who had watched the whole exchange from a distance, sighed heavily. "I'd ignore her if I were you," she murmured. "But be careful. Vivien gets what she wants." Esther nodded slowly. "I understand by midday rumours were already swirling. Did you see Vivien talking to her?" She looked furious. "I bet she'll have that girl gone by tomorrow." Esther walked through it all silently, keeping her focus on Max and Mia. She braided Mia's hair into soft pigtails and helped Max fix a toy robot with patience only a big sister could have. Their happiness mattered more than gossip, but Esther couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in her chest. Vivien's words had been a warning and a threat. That evening, after the twins were tucked in bed, Esther stepped into the hallway and nearly collided with Adrien. "Oh, sorry, sir," she said softly. He steadied her gently by the elbow. "My apologies. I didn't see you coming." His hand lingered a moment too long. They both noticed. Both pretended not to. "How were they today?" Adrien asked. "They behaved well," Esther replied. "We studied, played, and they ate a full meal." Adrien exhaled, a mixture of relief and pride. "They haven't eaten properly in months," he confessed quietly. "Every night was a battle, but now they run to the table." He looked at her with something warm, something grateful. "You're doing more than you realize, Esther." Her heart fluttered. "I'm happy to help," she said softly. They stood there, a quiet closeness settling between them, comfortable, unspoken. Then Adrien hesitated. "Has anyone here made you uncomfortable?" he asked. Esther's breath caught. He was asking about Vivien, but Esther didn't want conflict. She didn't want to cause trouble, so she shook her head. "No, sir." Adrien studied her face, unsure if he believed her. Before he could ask more, Mia's voice called faintly from the bedroom. "Daddy! Water!" Adrien gave Esther a small nod and walked past her. But as he disappeared into the children's room, he glanced back, just once. A soft, thoughtful look. And Esther felt warmth curl quietly inside her chest. The next day Vivien struck. She arrived early, unannounced, with a forced smile and a box of pastries she didn't let anyone else touch. She walked through the halls like they belonged to her, ignoring the staff's stiff politeness. At noon she found Esther helping Max with his math workbook. "Oh!" Vivien exclaimed dramatically. "There you are! I've been looking everywhere." Max scowled. Mia narrowed her eyes. "They didn't like Vivien." Vivien knelt with exaggerated grace, placing the pastries on the table. "I brought treats for the children," she cooed. "Isn't that nice?" Esther forced a small smile. "Thank you, ma'am, but the children have already eaten." Vivien waved that off. "Nonsense, children always want sweets." She opened the box, and a strong chemical smell filled the air. Esther froze. The twins recoiled. Vivien's smile stiffened. Max wrinkled his nose. "It stinks." Mia covered her mouth. "I don't want it." Vivien's eyes flashed panic. "Oh, that's just—" "The perfume store I passed by," she laughed nervously. The scent must have mixed in, but Esther knew better. She leaned closer to the box. The smell wasn't perfume, it was bleach. Vivien snapped the box shut abruptly. "You know what? Maybe they're not hungry after all." She stood too quickly, brushing imaginary dust from her dress. Esther's eyes narrowed, quietly, silently, dangerously. Vivien wasn't trying to hurt the children. She was trying to make Esther look careless. If the children had eaten and gotten sick, Esther would have been blamed. Accidentally, of course. Vivien forced a tight smile. "Careful, dear," she whispered. "This job of yours is very fragile." Then she walked away, heels clicking like a warning. Max looked up at Esther. "Auntie Esther, she's bad." Esther inhaled slowly. "Yes," she said gently. "But do not worry, I will protect you." Mia hugged her waist. "Will Daddy believe you?" Esther kissed the girl's forehead. "One day he will see everything." That night, as the mansion slept, Esther stood alone on the balcony, staring at the city lights. She had never wanted trouble. She had never sought attention. She only wanted to work, send money home, and keep her new little one safe. But Vivien Harrington was not going to make that easy. And Esther knew, quiet and gentle as she was, she would not be pushed aside. Not from this home, not from these children, not from the new peace she was building. Behind her, the balcony door slid open softly. Adrien stepped out, a jacket draped loosely over his shoulders. He looked at her in the moonlight, and something in his gaze softened. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked. Esther shook her head. "I just needed some air." Adrien moved to stand beside her, close, warm, not touching but nearly. They stood together in silence, the night around them calm and expectant. For a long moment, they were simply two lonely souls sharing the same quiet space. Then Adrien spoke, voice low. "Esther, I'm glad you're here." Her heart trembled, and though she didn't reply, he saw the slight smile tug the corner of her lips. A small moment, a brief one, but it was the first spark of something neither of them could deny. The next morning, the mansion carried an unusual tension, quiet but sharp. Staff whispered in corners, glancing nervously toward the main living room where Vivien had stationed herself like a queen on a throne. She sat elegantly on the cream sofa, legs crossed, flipping lazily through a glossy magazine. Her expression was cool, but her eyes darted often toward the hallway where Esther worked with the twins. She was watching, waiting, plotting. Mrs. Hammond walked past her with stiff shoulders, whispering under her breath, "This woman again." Esther felt the tension too, but she kept her face calm as she guided Mia through reading practice. "Sound it out," Esther encouraged softly. Mia's brow furrowed as she focused. Because. "Good girl!" Esther smiled, clapping gently. Mia beamed. From across the room, Vivien's jaw ticked. She rose suddenly and approached, heels echoing sharply. "Mia, darling," she sang, "you read so beautifully. Let me hear." Mia's smile vanished instantly. Max shifted uncomfortably, inching closer to Esther. Esther kept her tone polite. "They're in the middle of—" "I wasn't asking you," Vivien cut in sweetly. Mia lowered her head, the book trembling in her small hands. "Go on," Vivien urged. "Read it to me." Mia looked at Esther helplessly. "Don't be scared," Esther whispered gently. Taking a shaky breath, Mia tried again. Because. But Vivien waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, never mind. I thought you were further along." Mia's face crumpled. Max shot up angrily. "Leave her alone. She's trying." Vivien blinked. "Excuse me?" Esther quickly stepped in. "Max," she said quietly. "It's okay. No, it's not." Max hissed. He turned to Vivien. "You always make her feel bad. We don't like you." Vivien froze. The room froze. Esther placed a calming hand on Max's shoulder, but the damage was done. Vivien's face flushed. Humiliation, anger, something dark burning behind her eyes. She knelt down, forcing a smile. "Well, children can be emotional. I suppose someone has been influencing them." Her gaze flicked sharply to Esther. Esther said nothing, just held the twins close. Vivien straightened, smoothing her dress. "You know," she said with false lightness, "Adrien should hear about this. Children repeating disrespect. It reflects poorly on whoever spends the most time with them, don't you think?" Mrs. Hammond's eyes widened. The staff exchanged uneasy looks. But Esther remained still, calm, steady, like a tree in a storm. Vivien huffed softly and swept out of the room. Later that afternoon, Adrien returned from a business meeting. Vivien intercepted him instantly, dramatic and breathless. "Adrien, we need to talk." He frowned. "About what?" She gently grasped his arm, lowering her voice. "It's the nanny, Esther. She's influencing the children, teaching them disrespect." Adrien stiffened. "That doesn't sound like her." "I saw it with my own eyes," Vivien insisted. "Mia and Max were rude, hostile, and it was clearly learned behavior. I'm worried she's manipulating them." "And you're certain?" Adrien asked, tone tight. Vivien softened her expression. "I only care about the children. And you." Her hand lingered on his arm a moment too long. Adrien carefully removed it. "I'll handle it," he said curtly. Vivien smiled, victorious. Adrien found Esther in the garden sitting on a blanket with the twins, teaching them about different plants. The sunlight made her skin glow warmly, and Mia rested against her, feeling safe. For a moment he watched silently. He didn't see manipulation. He saw peace, he saw trust. "Esther," he said finally. She looked up immediately. "Sir, can I speak with you?" The twins clung to her, their faces anxious. Adrien knelt beside them. "Just a talk, okay? I'll bring her right back." Reluctantly they let go. Esther stood, smoothing her dress, and followed Adrien a few steps away. He took a quiet breath. "Vivien said the children were disrespectful this morning." Esther's chest tightened. She nodded, choosing her words carefully. "Sir—" Mia was reading. Vivien pressured her. Max defended her sister, that was all. Adrien's brows lifted slightly. "Defended her?" Esther nodded. Vivien spoke unkindly. The twins are sensitive to tone. They weren't being disrespectful. They were hurt. Adrien studied her face for a long moment. Her calmness, her honesty, her lack of defensiveness. He believed her. "Completely, thank you," he said softly, "for protecting them." Relief washed over Esther, subtle but deep. But then Adrien's expression changed, scrunched slightly in concern. "Vivien also said you were teaching the children to hate her." Esther blinked. "No, sir. I would never teach hatred, never." "I know," he said gently. "I just needed to hear it from you." Their eyes held, and in that moment something unspoken passed between them. His trust, her sincerity, a quiet bond that neither had expected. A breeze rustled the garden leaves around them. Adrien looked toward the twins. "They're different with you," he said quietly. "Happier, calmer, safe." Esther's heart warmed. "I only treat them the way I would treat my own siblings." Adrien smiled faintly. "I can see that." For a moment, the air between them softened. But then Adrien's smile faded. "I'm going to speak to Vivien. I don't want her interfering with your work again." Esther stiffened slightly. "Sir, please don't cause trouble because of me." His eyes darkened, not angry but protective. "You didn't cause the trouble," he said. She did. He gave her a gentle nod and returned to the mansion. Esther exhaled slowly, steadying her heartbeat. From the garden, Mia and Max ran to her, hugging her legs tightly. "Is Daddy mad at you?" Mia whispered. "No, sweetheart," Esther reassured softly. "Everything is fine." Max looked toward the house. "Will he be mad at Vivien?" Esther smoothed his hair. "Let the adults handle adult things, okay?" The children nodded, but Esther deep down felt a storm brewing inside the mansion walls. Inside, Adrien confronted Vivien in the living room. "What exactly did you think you were doing?" he asked sharply. Vivien blinked. "Adrien, dear—" "Don't dear me," he snapped. "You spoke to the children harshly. You upset them, and then you lied about it." Vivien's face fell into a practiced, hurt expression. "I was only trying to help." "By undermining my nanny," he demanded. "By upsetting my children?" Vivien swallowed. Her voice trembled with false innocence. I didn't think you would take her side over mine." Adrien stepped back. "This isn't about taking sides. It's about the truth." Vivien's mask cracked slightly. Her eyes shone with anger beneath the softness. Adrien continued, "I don't want you speaking to Esther again unless it's necessary. If you have concerns, you bring them to me." "Understood." Vivien stared at him for a long, tense moment. Then she forced a smile. "Of course," she whispered, but when Adrien turned and walked away, her smile twisted. This wasn't over, not even close, and the next time she struck, she planned to make sure Esther didn't recover. Vivien didn't return to the mansion for 2 days, but her absence didn't bring peace. It brought anticipation. Everyone could feel her plotting. Esther sensed it most. Vivien wasn't the type to retreat unless she intended to strike back, quietly, smartly, and with enough force to ruin someone. And Esther knew she was the target. On the 3rd morning, disaster arrived. It was subtle at first, a missing receipt, a misplaced drawer key, a staff member whispering about something strange in the laundry room. Then the real blow hit. Mrs. Hammond burst into the kitchen, pale as flour. "Esther," she whispered urgently, "you need to come. Now." Esther hurried after her, worry gripping her chest. Mrs. Hammond led her to the laundry room, and there, scattered dramatically across the floor, were expensive jewellery pieces, diamond earrings, a gold bracelet, a sapphire pendant. All items belonging to Adrian's late wife, all hidden in Esther's cleaning basket. Esther froze. Her heart pounded painfully. Mrs. Hammond grabbed her arm. "I know you didn't do this, but someone wants to frame you." Footsteps echoed down the hall. "Adrien!" Vivien was beside him, feigning shock, one hand over her chest like an actress on stage. "Oh my goodness, Adrien," she gasped. "I'm so glad we found this before anything else went missing." Esther swallowed hard, lifting her chin. "I didn't take those." Vivien raised a delicate brow. "Then how did they get into your basket? Spirits?" Adrien shot her a sharp look. "Esther," he said quietly, "do you have any explanation?" His tone wasn't aggressive, but it was tight, unsure, caught between evidence and trust. Esther lifted her gaze to meet his. "No, sir," she said honestly. "I don't know how they got there, but I didn't steal anything. I would never betray this home." Her voice didn't shake, her eyes didn't drop. Adrien held her stare. Vivien scoffed. "Oh, Adrien, for once, don't let your admiration blind you. This is clear theft." Esther's stomach twisted. "Admiration?" Adrien's jaw tightened. "Vivien, don't twist my words. I'm not twisting anything," she snapped. "I've warned you from the start. She's manipulating everyone. And now she's stolen from your wife's memory. This is unforgivable." Adrien's eyes flashed, pain, grief, anger tangled together. Vivien saw his hesitation pressed harder. "You have to let her go." The room went silent. Esther felt something inside her crack, but she held her head high. "If you believe I did this, sir," she said softly, "I will leave." Mia's small voice broke the silence. "No." Everyone turned. The twins stood in the doorway, wide-eyed, frightened, clutching each other's hands. Mia ran to Esther, wrapping her arms around her waist. Max faced Adrien boldly, trembling. "She didn't do it," he shouted. "Auntie Esther would never steal." Vivien crouched like a predator. "Oh, sweetie, you don't understand." "Shut up," Max screamed. Vivien recoiled, scandalized. "Adrien, are you hearing this? She's teaching them to be wild." Adrien didn't answer, because at that moment, something clicked. Max tugged Adrien's hand. "Daddy," he said, eyes shining with tears, "she's our family." Mia nodded hard, her face buried into Esther's skirt. "We love her." The truth, the real truth, was right there, so pure and simple a child could say it. Adrien's eyes shifted from the children to Esther, to the jewelry basket, to Vivien. A slow, chilling realization settled over him. He exhaled. "Esther," he said carefully, "did anyone else have access to your cleaning supplies?" Vivien stiffened. Mrs. Hammond looked at Vivien. A few staff members exchanged glances. Esther answered quietly. "Yes, anyone could have entered the laundry room." Vivien choked on her own inhale. Adrien turned to her. "Vivien, you arrived earlier than usual today. I was just visiting the children," she stammered. "And you left your coat in the laundry room," Mrs. Hammond added. Vivien shot her a murderous glare. Adrien stepped closer to her, his voice low and frighteningly calm. "Vivien, did you put this jewelry in Esther's basket?" Her lips trembled. I would never—" he interrupted sharply. "Look at me, and tell me the truth." Vivien's composure shattered. Her breathing quickened. "I did it for you," she burst out suddenly. "For this house, for the children." "Adrien, she's replacing me. She's replacing your wife, and you don't even see it." Silence crashed through the room. The staff froze. Mrs. Hammond gasped. The twins clung tighter to Esther. Adrien's face hardened like stone. "Get out," he said. Vivien blinked. "What?" "You heard me," he repeated, voice like ice. "Get out of my house. Adrien," he pointed to the door. "Now." Vivien saw the finality in his eyes and finally understood. She had lost. Her face twisted with fury as she stormed out, heels clacking furiously against the marble. When the door slammed behind her, the entire mansion exhaled. Adrien walked toward Esther slowly. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I should have trusted you from the start." Esther shook her head. "You had every right to ask questions, sir." He smiled faintly. "Hurt, apologetic, warm all at once. You're too kind." The twins pulled on Esther's hands. "Daddy, she's staying, right?" Max demanded. Adrien looked at Esther. "If she wants to—" Esther's heart softened. "Yes," she said. "I'll stay." Mia cheered. Max hugged her leg. Mrs. Hammond wiped a tear discreetly. Peace, real peace, settled over the home. That night, after the children slept, Adrien walked Esther to the hallway. Neither spoke at first. The quiet between them was different now, gentler, warmer, filled with something unspoken but present. "I meant what I said," Adrien murmured. "This house is better with you in it." Esther felt her chest warm. "You make the children feel safe," he continued softly. "And you make me," he paused, searching for the right word, "feel something I haven't felt in a long time." Her breath caught. He stepped a little closer, but not too close. Just enough that she felt the warmth of him. "I'm not asking for anything," he said gently. "Not now, not soon, but when the time is right, I hope you'll let me know if you feel it too." Esther's eyes softened. She didn't touch him, didn't lean in, didn't rush what was forming between them. She simply smiled, small, shy, honest. "I'll let you know," she whispered. Adrian's smile in return was quiet, yet full of hope, and as Esther walked away down the dimly lit hallway, she touched her heart, knowing something new had begun. Something warm, something gentle, something real. The beginning of a bond neither of them expected, but both of them felt.